You're listening to Quorum Radio.
Hey folks, Bill from Quorum Radio. Please do me a big favor and give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share. Thanks so much for tuning into Quorum Radio on Best Book Network. Quorum Radio now on with Buell Wesley Frazier. He's the author of the book Steering Truth, My Eternal Connection to JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald. This book is it centers around an extremely interesting chapter in his life, not the most important one, but an interesting one nonetheless. That is that he was basically the person chosen at the School Book Depository to train a young Lee Harvey Oswald in October of 1963, and would drive him a few times a week from the School Book Depository to Irving, Texas, to the home of Ruth Paine or nearby it, so that he could be with his wife Marie and his children. So it's great to have you on the show, Buell. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine, sir. And yourself?
Very good, very good. It's a great day. And you live in Texas now also, or have you moved on from the great Lone Star State?
No, I currently reside in Texas today.
Great. Well, the question I have for you is, this book, was it a hard book for you to write? Because it comes up to about 56 or 7 years after the assassination. Was it was the process in any way difficult for you to pull off?
It took some time to do because I was trying to correct my thoughts and also remember the people that are no longer here and
Sure.
that have made an impression on me. For instance, like my two older sisters and their husbands are gone. One of my nieces, and some of the people I worked with there at the Texas School Books, like Mr. Shelley and Mr. Truly, and then my friend who works for the Sixth Floor Museum, Gary Mack. In some ways, all of them was part of my life in some way, and they had a effect on writing this book, and in lots of ways they were responsible also. And the thing is, this period that I talked about in my life, sometimes it took me a while to get this done because sometimes some of the things were very sad for me, and to be working on it, I just have to walk away for a while and then come back to it later. I still have a lot of memories, and the things about memories are like scars.
Yes.
They never go away.
Sure. They kind of blend in, but they're there. And,
yes.
Sometimes you come up against them. Okay. Well, it is an incredible story, but before we jump right into it, wanted to get an idea from you. What was Dallas like, Texas like in 1963? Then, tell us about the School Book Depository. What was it like? What do you remember about that? Our country has changed a lot. Texas has changed a lot, but what do you remember about that time in American life?
Yes, that's very true. Dallas is totally a different city today than it was back in 1963. A matter of fact, not only Texas, but our country of America was different. Times are much more simpler, I think, back then. But as we go along, we've grown in different ways, and with the technology growing like it is today, by leaps and bounds, there's just so many things out there that was not available back then.
Sure. What was this Texas School Book Depository like? Now, you're somebody who's in your 70s. You worked in lots of different jobs, lots of different places. How would you characterize, aside from November 22nd, 1963, how would you characterize your time at the School Book Depository? I understand you worked there after that incredible day, right? For a couple of years?
That is That is correct. After November the 22nd, 1963, which most people remember, that's the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. I continued to work for Texas School Book Depository until the end of July in 1965.
Yeah, sure. How would you rate your experience with the School Book Depository as far as the job goes? What was the work environment like? Tell us about that, please.
I think things went very well there back then. We had a small crew, but we worked very well together. Different people had different jobs, and at different times of the day, we knew that we had certain things we had to get done that day, and if someone needed help, well, then someone would help you, and if you needed help, and get the job done. And Mr. Truly, who was the warehouse manager, he was a very simple man, but he demanded perfection, and he was constantly checking on the crew, seeing what we were doing. Now, we had a supervisor named Bill Shelley,
Right.
and he was the supervisor that actually ran the crew, and he was very easy to talk to and work with. Mr. Shelley, even though he was my boss, he was more like one of the workers there. He
Sure.
would help you any way he could, and he was always he had so much information. If you needed help or on something, he was always willing to help you any way he could.
Sure. So then, and tell us about the day you met Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay, on the day that I met Lee Harvey Oswald, by the way, that was the first day that I'd ever met the man. I didn't even know who he was until that day. I was working, a matter of fact, I was upstairs putting an order, and for people that may not know, Texas School Book Depository had 7 floors in a basement. Now, some people may not know that, but anyway, I was up on one of the floors pulling an order, and we had speakers on each of the floors, and he asked me to come to his office. So I stopped what I was doing, and I took the elevator down, the freight elevator down, and to the first floor, and I walked to his office, and he was standing outside of his office, and he had a young man with him. As I walked up, and he said, and back then I went by, my name was Wesley, my middle name, that's what I went by. And he said, Wesley, he said, this is Lee, he's going to be working with us. And I said, well, glad to have you. And he said, what I want you to do, he said, I want you to teach him to fill orders as well as you. And I said, yes, sir, I'll do my best. So what happened after that was for the next 3 or 4 days, Lee was with me. He was like my shadow. He was everywhere I was. And
Sure.
And the thing I'd like to tell people about Lee Harvey Oswald, he was always on time. He wasn't a slacker. He was a very good worker, and he learned very quickly. And I really appreciated that. And then after 3 or 4 days, I was riding into work, and I said, well, I think we need to find out what this man has learned. So I took a clipboard, and I take some of the easier orders, and I put on the clipboard and told him he didn't know I was going to do this. And so I handed him the clipboard, and I said, well, Lee, I said, let's find out what you've learned so far. And I said, take the clipboard, and I said, go fill these orders. I said, if you need any help, I said, just come to me, find me, and I said, I'll go over the invoice with you and explain it to you, and we'll go from there. He said, very well. And so as I said earlier, he was a very fast learner, and I really appreciated that. And
Sure.
So we just went through our normal routine of filling orders every day, Monday through Friday. And on that day, November the 22nd, 1963, was no different than any else other day. And the week, usually Fridays were very busy because that was the last day of the week, and we were trying to get everything pulled and shipped. And back then, we shipped by two ways. We shipped by the United States Postal System and the freight lines. We did not have FedEx and UPS. And the thing is, about that morning, November the 22nd, was different than other mornings. And by that, I mean, he had asked to come home with me on Thursday, the day before, the 21st of November. And I asked him, I said, sure. And then later on, I realized that it wasn't Friday. And when I ran into him, I said, you do know the day is Thursday, not Friday. He said, yes. And then that's when he told me that he needed to go out to Irving with me to get some curtain rods, because Marino had made some curtains for his room at a rooming house.